Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Happy Friday and welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show here on WKYC. I'm Jay Crawford. For the next 30 minutes, we're talking Cavs, Guardians, Browns. Speaking of the Guardians, what's been the biggest surprise so far through 12 games? I'll tell you my thoughts. Jason.
Luka Doncic returned to Dallas the other day, and ESPN had a little fun with it and said, had Dallas opened up trade negotiations, how much would each team be willing to give? If you were the Cavs, how much would you be willing to give to get Luka Doncic? We'll talk about it. G.
I'm G. Bush, and guess who's in town? Cam Scatterboo. He's going to be a fan favorite if the Browns pull the trigger on this guy. We'll talk about it when we get over here. McNuggets.
Yeah, it's not just Scatterboo in town this weekend. The Browns hosted multiple tight ends for top 30 visits. It's a position we all kind of think the Browns could be looking to target in the middle of round 2, 3, 4, somewhere in that day 2, early day 3 range. And that's where we're going to start today, guys. And Jay, I'll start with you. Of all the guys that have visited, we had Mason Taylor in town, Terrence Ferguson in town, Elijah Arroyo of Miami in town. They've hosted Harold Fannin and some other guys earlier on top 30 visits. In that mid-round tight end range, so we're taking out Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland from the equation.
Right.
Who do you think is the perfect fit for Cleveland at either 67, 94, somewhere in that range?
I'm going to get beat up for this because it's stretching the definition of middle rounds. Like, I would think most people would say the middle rounds are 3, 4, and 5. Mm-hmm. The late rounds would be 6 and 7, and the early rounds would be 1 and 2. But if you stretch it to the third round and you stretch your imagination to the thought that maybe Harold Fannin slips to the third round, he's your answer. Local guy, and that he played at Bowling Green. He not only led all tight ends in catches and receiving yards, he led all pass catchers in receiving yards. That doesn't happen very often at the college level. It doesn't happen in the NFL very frequently either. I don't know that it's ever happened. But this guy, if you're saying, well, you know what, he's not tested, he played in the MAC, go back and watch his performance against Texas A&M and the week before that against Penn State, and he looked every bit the part. I think he had over 100 yards receiving in both of those games.
Correct.
And he was the nightmare that Penn State couldn't figure out. Bowling Green had a lead, I believe, in the fourth quarter against Penn State and played both of those games very, very closely, and it's because of this guy. I watched him full games 6 times and parts of a couple of other games too. He is an NFL prospect. I don't know that he'll be around in the third round, but if he is, Cleveland better take him.
Listen, third round for me, I looked at this, and I got to go with Mason Taylor. Comes from very good pedigree. Jason Taylor is his father, former defensive end, Hall of Famer, went to the University of Akron, Miami Dolphin. But this guy, he has a very intriguing body type, 6'5". He's a big guy, can catch. He had over 500 yards, a couple of touchdowns. But that's decent numbers given the fact of what teams do in college. Not very many teams spot shadow or highlight tight ends, but this guy can catch the ball, catches a ball with his hands. He's a decent blocker, can get a little better at that. But for my money, I think he'll be there in the third round, Jason. I like Mason Taylor, tight end, to get things going. They need something to go with Njoku. I think it'll be a nice fit.
Well, for this exercise, I cheated. Work smarter, not harder. So when Mike threw out this question, I texted Dane Brugler, who does the NFL draft for us at The Athletic.
That is cheating.
Hey, work smarter, not harder.
That's true.
And I threw out the question to him, and I knew you were going to take Fannin.
Yeah.
And I said, give me somebody else. And he said,
did he agree with Fannin?
He said Fannin would be ideal at 94. He thinks he'll be there at 94.
Wow, does he really?
Yeah. So he said Fannin at 94 would be ideal for the Browns. So I agree with you. Let's go Fannin.
Yeah.
If Fannin's not there, if he goes earlier,
yeah,
I'll go a little bit different direction based on what Dane told me. And you think about tight end, you think about David Njoku, you think about Fannin, you think about over the middle. catches, yards after catch, that sort of thing. C.J. Dupree is a guy from Alabama, big blocker. He's not much of a you can see right there. Not great numbers. Dane said he can catch it better than what he showed, but he's more of a blocking tight end. And in Kevin's system, when you go 2 tight ends, when you go 13 personnel with 3 tight ends, a lot of times one of them's a pass catcher and one of them's an extra blocker. Dupree would fit more of the model of the extra blocker. Yeah. And he said Dane felt like as a day 3 pick, C.J. Dupree would bring good value to the Browns as that second, third type of tight end. Run formations. He's a very good blocker who can give you a little something in the pass game.
And Reese obviously has familiarity with this kid, right? He was there when Reese was the OC at Alabama. All right, I like that pick. I like all those actually. But boy, if they can get Fannin, if he does slip that far, I think that would be a steal.
He said Fannin is a better version of Harrison Bryant. And I mentioned the other day, Harrison Bryant won the Mackey Award as the best tight end in the country, and he lasted until the 4th round.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a pretty good chance Fannin's there at 94.
Be watching that very closely. Mike has a guy. Mike, who are you taking?
Yeah, they brought in Elijah Arroyo this week. He was the first guy they brought in on these top 30 visits. The tight end out of Miami who blew up at the Senior Bowl. His numbers prior to this season, very unimpressive, but he finally got a quarterback that he can play with, Cam Ward, and he scored 7 of his 8 career touchdowns as a junior this year. He's an athletic guy, not much of a blocker, kind of the opposite of the guy, C.J. Dupree, that Jason mentioned. But when you pair up what he can do from an athletic standpoint and giving whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Flacco, Pickett, a rookie, whoever, another option in the passing game, I like his upside. And they have David Njoku. Where did David Njoku go to college? Miami. Where's Elijah Arroyo from? Miami. The Browns have not had a rich history of draft success, but they have hit on their last high-round tight end out of Miami, so I wouldn't be upset if they dip back into that well and pulled Elijah Arroyo out of a hat.
Yeah. I like that.
He looks the part, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he can catch the ball, too. And he runs away from people.
Like he's more like the Evan Ingram range of tight ends as opposed to the big hand in the ground blocking type. So I think his game.
I think we're all in agreement. They're taking a tight end, right, at some point?
I would think so.
Yeah. I think so, too. Kevin loves them, and they have a need. So, all right. Let's move to running back. That's an intriguing position in this year's draft. There's a lot of talent there, and we're going to see if this recent trend of valuing running backs more than teams prior kind of continues. Arizona State running back Cam Scatabo. Did you guys remember him from it was the bowl game? I can't remember what bowl it was.
It was against Texas.
Yeah. Oh my God. He was absolutely just told the team, "Get on my back. I've got you." He was here to talk to the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns kicking the tires on him. When you watched, if you watch that game and you remember his grit and just how tough this guy was. He reminds me a little bit of who was the old running back, the Arkansas guy that almost drowned.
Peyton Hillis.
Peyton Hillis. A little bit of Peyton Hillis. Got these huge guns.
Yep.
And I think he'd be like the prototypical Cleveland player. We would love a guy like that because he looks like he comes with the lunchbox included. What do you guys make of that?
Listen, I'd say when I saw him play, draft him. I'll take him.
Yeah.
He runs violently. He could catch the ball out of the backfield. I think in that game, he even threw a pass for a touchdown in that game. Versatile. I've watched him for about 2 years. I think he's the perfect type running back that fits kind of with the Browns and body. If you can get Cam Scatterbo, and I think he'll be available somewhere in the 3rd, maybe even the 4th round, because he's not super athletic. He's not gonna blow the doors off of you with his speed or athleticism. But what he does, it's built specifically for Cleveland Browns, and I think fans will love him. I think you get him in the 4th round. I love it, Jason.
No, I agree. I think he's got the right personality for Cleveland. I think fans would eat him up. He's got the right game style. To me, they need to spend their first 3 picks on the offensive side of the ball.
There you go.
I'm not really getting wrapped up in the names. We talked about on the YouTube show. I left the owners' meetings pretty convinced they were taking Travis Hunter at 2, so there's one. You think that there's going to be a quarterback somewhere in there as well. And then you go tight end, running back.
Which one would you prioritize?
Over
a running back or a tight end?
Running back.
You would?
Yeah, because you still have David Njoku here. So if Fannon's there at 94, that is awfully appealing. But Jerome Ford is not the answer to me. I think there's more of a pressing need at running back right now than there is at tight end.
What's going to happen with Nick?
I was going to ask him, does him getting a running back in the draft prohibit them from Nick Chubb? What are your thoughts on him?
I don't think it. Here's the thing for me. You have to make sure you have a spot on the roster for Nick if you bring him to camp. You can't cut Nick Chubb.
No.
You can't bring him here, see that it's not working, and then cut him. That's worse. You're better off not bringing him back at all than you are to bring him back.
Do you get a sense where they're leaning?
I think that the door is open. I think he's testing the market, and we'll see after the draft. Probably there's not going to be any movement on that until teams get through the draft, and then they sort of reassess their running back room of where they are, and then there may be some action on that. If the Browns take a running back in the second round, third round, it might make it a little bit harder to bring Nick back. We just have to get through the draft and see where they're at.
Again, I live in my nightmare scenarios. He goes to Pittsburgh and runs for 1,000 yards next year.
Jay, who aren't you scared ends up in Pittsburgh and terrorizing the Browns?
The whole league.
This is Will Howard.
Everybody.
This is
Everybody.
Ooh, this is Jack
And you know what?
Sawyer.
It's not just now. It's not just now. And here's the reason that this has been my position. How many Ohio State studs have the Browns passed on and Pittsburgh took and led them to Super Bowls? I've seen this movie.
Cam Hayward, Santonio Holmes.
So Holmes was I'm like, oh my God, he's got to go to Cleveland. No, Pittsburgh. Hayward. And I know that Ben didn't play at Ohio State.
Ryan
but
Shazier.
He grew up a Browns fan. He grew up in Northwest Ohio. Played at Miami of Ohio. And of course, we don't draft him, and he goes to Pittsburgh and wins a couple Super Bowls.
Outside of Cam Hayward, who else is on that Ohio State to Pittsburgh train?
Santonio Holmes, Ryan Shazier.
Shazier is another one. There's
Oh.
more, too. We're missing some guys. I'll
try to do a quick Google search here to find it.
Yeah, the list is long.
Are you worried that Henderson and/or Judkins
Sure.
could be a Steeler?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't see them succeed in Pittsburgh. Not when we're going to have a shot to draft them first.
We asked Jay.
They get Will Howard. If they get Howard and Henderson, I'm probably going to just quit watching football.
And you say you hate these Steelers more than you hate the Ravens.
Oh, without question. Without question.
I don't know how.
Because when I was 10 years old and I was becoming a fan of the NFL, they were tremendous. And we had good teams back then, but we just couldn't get over their hump. And they're winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl.
Jay, no team has drafted more Ohio State players in the last 2 seasons than Cleveland.
Yes.
For whatever it's worth.
Before that, they drafted like 4 Buckeyes.
Oh, they went years without
They
drafting
almost
Ohio
never
State
did.
players.
Paul Warfield obviously was a huge success for them. Tom Kuzma wasn't.
Craig Powell broke them.
Craig Powell was it. They're like, okay, we've had it. We're never going back to that well. Man. Craig Powell was a good college linebacker, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
I liked him.
Awful in the NFL.
Awful in the NFL.
No, Brian Ribisky broke us.
That
true.
was another
His dad
one. That
was
was
a
another
coach,
one.
too.
But
High
for
second
years,
round
we
pick.
just didn't even go there. We just said, no, we're good, which I just could never understand. And all the while, Pittsburgh's going, we'll take this one, and we'll take this one. And
Before we
Cam
go to break,
Hayward was
Jay,
tough, too.
Before we go to break, can you name the last player from Ohio State the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted? It's not a big name. Just full disclosure.
Yeah, no, I know it's not Cam Hayward, but
I'll give you a hint.
I think
It's
they
been
took
9 years. They've not
they
drafted
took a
Buckeye in
defensive
9
back.
years.
Was it a defensive back? Yeah.
Doran Grant.
Yeah,
in the fourth round.
Yeah, and he
of
wasn't any good.
2015.
Yeah, I didn't want Cleveland to draft him because I remember watching him in college, thinking, yeah, this guy's not going to be a good NFL cornerback.
2015, last Buckeye drafted.
Yeah, they're
by
going to go back to the
Pittsburgh.
well this year. Big time. They're going back. All right, we're taking a break. On the other side of the break, we've seen now 12 games from the Cleveland Guardians. Not yet 10% of the season. They're 6-6. What's the biggest surprise from the team this year? We'll give our answers next. Welcome back to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. In case you're just joining us and you haven't heard the news, Joe Flacco back with the Cleveland Browns, and we're going to discuss that move coming up in our next segment. But for this segment, we want to talk baseball. Cleveland Guardians, 12 games into the season. After their sweep of the White Sox, 6 wins, 6 losses. They open a weekend set against the Royals at Progressive tonight, and the only thing different from that picture and game time, will there be a few more people in the stands. It's
Not
astonishing
many.
to me.
Just a few.
Opening day, you're packed at 35,000, and the next day you can almost count them yourself.
Two.
And yesterday, too, because it's cold, and this is not baseball weather, but hopefully it's a Friday night. We'll have a little bit better crowd tonight than we did yesterday and then Wednesday night as well. Biggest surprise so far this season, what's it been for you?
For me, it's been the defense or lack of the defense. They've among the league leaders in errors. They're averaging just under an error per game. They have 11 errors in 12 games. Last year, they were much more middle of the pack. the biggest culprit is Jose Ramirez, who's a phenomenal fielder. He had 9 errors all of last year. He's already got 5 this year.
Wow.
So, is it the cold? Maybe. But the left side of the infield has 8 of their 11 errors between Rocchio and Jose Ramirez.
And that's supposed to be the best part.
That's supposed to be, your shortstop's supposed to be your most sure-handed guy. So, ultimately, I do think it'll be cleaned up. I don't think it's going to continue. But if you're asking me about surprises, there's certainly there's different topics to pick from. But for me, this is a team that's been built on pitching and defense for years. And they've been really, really leaky defensively, particularly from guys that you wouldn't expect it.
I'm going to have to go, even though I kind of felt the bats was going to be kind of quiet, I'm kind of alarmed about the lack of power in the outfield. You got Nolan Jones, he came back, doesn't have any home runs. Big Christmas. Lane Thomas does not have any home runs. Even guys like Schneemann, that don't have any power. And I thought there was going to be a little more infusion of the power, especially if you were going to platoon those guys out in right field. It just hasn't, come to fruition. I think it kind of balances out a little bit because Jose has started a little hotter than he usually has. Usually he struggles in the month of April, but he's been, hitting the ball out of the park. But I'm just, as I look at it, if the Guardians are at 6-6 right now, if they're going to get into it and continue to go, they're going to have to get some power from those positions, especially the corner fielders. And you can't let Quan have more home runs than the rest of the guys in right field. That's just not going to be optimal. So I'm kind of alarmed that the power isn't where it is. I didn't expect him to hit, 10, 15 home runs by now, but at least I was looking for something in terms of when you got Nolan Jones and Lane Thomas back, that they would be hitting the ball a little harder than they are right now.
Yeah, you know what? When I started thinking about this, I'm like, this season's filled with surprises.
Yep.
And most of them are disappointments. Because there are pleasant surprises, and then there's, that's disappointment. You mentioned the errors. That's wildly disappointing to me. Not characteristic at all, and I think they will clean it up, and I think it's a product of them playing a lot of games, 3 games at least, in cold weather. I think that I'm surprised that the pitching staff has not been great. Yesterday I thought Gavin Williams was great, but that comes with an asterisk because the White Sox are a minor league team. The bullpen has been way below average, a huge surprise in the disappointing category. But my biggest surprise is something that I predicted was going to happen, and I know it's 12 games, and it's not even 10% of the season, but it's surprisingly worse than I thought it was going to be, and that's the experiment to put Jose Ramirez in the 2-hole. I hated it when it was first brought up. I hated it when they started the season with it. I hate it even more today because I've seen it for 12 games. You cannot have your most productive power hitter with 4 home runs and 6 RBI. Now, okay, he's hit a lot of solo home runs. It's early. But too many times he's coming up the bat with nobody on base. And that's what you get in a 2-hole hitter, particularly when you've got the 8 and 9 hitters that are, and when Hedges is in the lineup, it's almost like you don't have a hitter in that spot. It's an automatic out. So it's been a surprise to me at just how bad it's been. And he typically starts slow. But the fact that he has 4 home runs, you'd like to see someone with 4 home runs with at least double-digit RBI, at least, because that means he's one of your best power hitters, and you're putting him in a spot where he can do the most damage. I think I love what we've gotten out of other bats in the lineup, but this isn't going to work. I don't think that they should go with this long term. I hope the experiment ends sooner than later, and he's got to be in a position to hit with more guys on base.
Who are they moving there if they're going to take him out of the 2-hole?
Well, I keep thinking it was going to be Rocchio, and Jason said in the YouTube show that you're still buying stock on Rocchio, and I am too. I think that his mistakes on the bases and in the field, I want to think that those are just aberrations, and that he's going to be okay at both of those spots. And I've seen signs that he has good at bats. I think he's still going to be a very good hitter for the Guardians. But I would move Rocchio into that 2 spot, and the guys that are hitting behind him are still hitting. It's not like they're not hitting right now. I just don't want him in the 2 spot.
Rocchio's expected on-base percentage is over 300, so he's just been a little bit unlucky is what that means to this point. hopefully that changes and it regresses to the mean in a good way.
I hope so. All right, when we come back, wow, he's a Cleveland Brown again. Joe Flacco is now the quarterback. We'll talk about that and a fun Cavs trade that never happened. What's old is new again. And by that I mean Joe Flacco is a member of the Cleveland Browns. They announced the signing this morning, $4 million with the potential to be $13 million if he hits incentives. He's 40 years old, had a great run here 2 years ago. We've got our complete thoughts on this move on the YouTube show, if you want to find that on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. What do you guys make of this move?
I'm confused by it. I don't totally understand it. I don't know why you're bringing back a 40-year-old quarterback. My whole thing, and I talked about this in the YouTube show, where are you going? What are you trying to accomplish? If you're choosing between him and Kirk Cousins, I get it because he doesn't cost you anything in trade capital. It's only $4 million. Who knows how much they would have had to eat had they traded for Cousins from Atlanta. I just don't know the long-term move here other than trying to placate the fans and saying, hey, we know we've just put you through a lot of misery these last couple of years, so here's a gift from us to you. we got your guy back.
In the words of a great LeBron James, Cleveland, this is for you. They gave you Flacco back. You know, you had a great you had a great time with him. Listen, last year was a dumpster fire. We know it. We're going to admit that the Deshaun Watson thing didn't work. We'll say it publicly. Then we're going to give you something to watch this year, and it's nostalgic. It's a happy moment. And guess what? People like Flacco here. So you know you're going to have competent football. You're not going to win 3 or 4 games next year because I think what the ceiling is, if Joe Flacco plays next year, you'll get 7 wins or 7, 8 wins you'll be possible to get. And it does not prohibit you from finding another quarterback in the draft. You may move back up to get Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart, whatever the case may be. But it's a good move to kind of move the organization forward and hoping to get everything ready for when the dome comes, as Jason Lloyd always says.
Yeah, it's a goodwill gesture for sure, but also consider this. Where else for $4 million are they going to go get a guy who in the last 2 seasons has made 11 starts, and in those 11 starts threw for 25 touchdowns and averaged 260 yards per game? We don't see those numbers here in Cleveland. The last time we saw them was with Joe Flacco. So I want to pin you down on this. I know you said you don't understand it. Like or dislike the move? I know you don't understand
Dislike.
You dislike it.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
If
See,
I
I think
if I have to pick, I would say dislike.
where are you going to get that kind of production for $4 million?
If he wins you the 7 or 8 games, G says, you've now taken yourself out of the position to really go get the guy you really want.
I
in
never
2026.
tank. I hate that argument. I think that's a loser's mentality.
I mean,
I know it's sometimes smart,
Yeah.
but as a fan, I have limited number of seasons left. I don't want to kiss any of them away.
Let me ask you guys a question. Does this mean that Joe Flacco is probably the guy who's going to start next year?
I think he's the starter.
I agree with that. I think he
even
is
if
too.
they draft somebody, so they'll say it's a quarterback competition, but you think Flacco's?
I think Flacco's the starter, Pickett's the backup, and whoever they draft is the third quarterback at the start of the season.
Yeah, very interesting move. All right, Mike, I want to throw it to you to set this up. First of all, I want to give ESPN kudos. This was a great idea to do this because a lot of times their hypotheticals to me don't make sense, but this one really did. What did they do?
Yeah, so after the Luka Doncic return to Dallas over the week, they proposed fake trades. If Dallas had put Luka on the market, what would each team have to give up in order to get Luka? And for the Cavs, this is something we actually talked about right in the aftermath. ESPN must have listened to UCSS on YouTube, and if you don't subscribe, go subscribe. The money makes sense and matches if you were to put together a package of Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and that unprotected 2031 first-round pick. I'm not sure it would have been enough to get Luka, but I also didn't think Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a future first would be enough either. So that was ESPN's proposed trade. Would you guys pull the trigger?
Would you guys have done that?
In a second.
I would have broke my neck to pick up the phone to call them.
And then changed my number so they couldn't call back and change their mind. Disconnected the number. Nope, sorry, no takebacks. You said yes. Luka Doncic is a top 5 player in the NBA, certainly top 10. It's really hard to get those guys. I don't care what you have to give up. As great as Darius has been this year, and he's been great, as wonderful as Jared Allen is, see ya.
Yeah.
I mean, was there any question about that? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Listen, I run that back every day and twice on Sunday.
And then I'll see you at the parade in June.
Here's what I most love about this exercise. It really shows the absurdity of what Dallas did.
Yeah.
Because go look at the piece and look at the other trades that this mythical piece proposed. I don't know why Dallas did this. I will never know why they did it. The Lakers fleeced them. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Go Guardians.